What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm excited about this episode because it's a bit unique. Haven't done something like this just yet, I don't think anyway, on this podcast. And that is that I'm releasing an episode, which was actually an in-person interview at our last Champion event in San Francisco. So if you're not familiar with Champion, I'll start there. Our Champion group is exclusive to the men's side, the GoBundance men's side. And this is our higher net worth group, currently at 5 million plus in net worth. Or $1 million a year in net earnings is the other way you can get in if your net worth isn't quite at 5 million. But that's the Champion event. Champions get exclusive access to certain specific Champion events, a Champion Facebook group, a Champion pod, and some other things like that if you're wondering exactly what that is. And by the way, Champion Elite, whether you're not a millionaire yet, go to GoBundance.com, apply, and we'll make sure we put you in the right spot, whether it's women's, men's million to 5 million, men's 5 million plus a Champion, or Emerge Ascend if you're not quite a millionaire yet. We'll make sure the right group reaches out to you. But this is, especially as we go into potentially a recession, this is probably the best time to be around like-minded people that are going to help protect you and you them in terms of whatever is to come in the near future. But back to the interview. The guest we had that came in was exceptional. Everybody knew him, whether it was a 19-year-old kid up to my 70-year-old mother. His name is Xzibit. His name is actually Alvin Joiner, but Xzibit was the name that most of us know him by because he was the star of a show called Pimp My Ride. He's an iconic rapper way back in the days with Dr. Dre and Eminem and Snoop Dogg. He's one of that crew, which was incredible. And this interview allowed me to really explore, before even meeting and interviewing him, a ton about the guy that was really interesting. And then when I did meet him at the event, I had lunch with him and another friend, kind of by happenstance, not planned. And I learned even more, which gave me more fuel for the interview. So, man, we go deep here. In fact, of the 60 men in that room, most of them said to me afterward, like, man, that interview, we didn't know what to expect. Xzibit at a GoBundance event, but that interview was like worth the price of admission of being here. The lessons learned, the intricacies of his life, the information that we came up with, and the entertainment. The dude is an amazingly entertaining guy, and you'll get that from this interview. We're top notch. So I loved this interview. It's one of my favorites, if not maybe my favorite of all time at this point. I hope you all get a ton of value out of it. Be sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment below. Let us know what you think about this particular interview. And again, go to GoBundance.com and apply if you want to be part of this incredible community and meet people like Alvin Joiner, Xzibit. But until then, let's go check out this interview live from San Francisco at our Champion event with Alvin Joiner.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
How's it been so far?
I mean, first of all, let me say thank you to the group for allowing me to be here as a guest. This has been a very eye-opening experience, and to be around so many like-minded individuals and so many entrepreneurs is a blessing for me, so thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So the first question might be, why the hell is Xzibit at the GoBundance event? Maybe some of you had that. Who's spent 5 minutes with Jerry? Anybody? All right, this will be relevant for a few of you. If you know Jerry, intensity is the word that really defines Jerry. So we're in Miami in an Uber, trapped with Jerry, me and 2 other guys. Just kidding, Jerry. And I hear this voice come out of the back seat, Jamie, how fucking cool would it be to have fucking Xzibit in fucking San Francisco? I'm like, be cool, man. Calm down. He's got this vein popping out of his head. He's getting all excited. So I'm like, why do you, from China, now living in Philadelphia, how the hell do you know Xzibit? He's like, we're business partners in a cannabis company. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense, but sure. Yeah. We'll go with it. So we're here. We got you here, and it's been exciting to get to know you a little bit. Let's start at the beginning for you. I flew here from Detroit. That's where you grew up.
Right.
You had a pretty tragic beginning, right? Your mother, when you were 9 years old, I think, passed away.
Yes, I was born in Detroit, Michigan. Both my parents were. Well, first, to back up a little bit, my father was like David Osborne's father. He was coming from Vietnam. Met my mother in college. Really hardcore dude, and he did 2 tours, and so that's kind of how they started, the family. I was born in 1974. Both my parents at that time were educators. And so it was like they used their lesson plans on us. I would go to school and I would come home, and then they would do their lesson plans on us as well. So, that's kind of how life was. And so my mother passed away when I was 9. And then that was like a really tough time for me.
Was it expected at all or no?
No. My mother passed away from like heart complications because of over obesity. After that, my dad got remarried immediately, and that kind of messed my head up a little bit too. And so, we ended up going to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Like, that's where she wanted to live, all right? So it was a big transition for me to go from an urban setting into a desert setting, and, going from like having lots of family members around to being, now in this step family arrangement. So it was a really tough, turbulent time for me. So that built up a lot of anger. And so that was kind of like what was like sitting on me as a kid.
Yeah. Now, when you were in Albuquerque, I think at some point, did you go into a group home or something to that effect?
Yeah. When I got to Albuquerque, we were like the only black family there. You know what I'm saying? At the time, this was like the 80s, so I'm trying to adjust to, my mother passing. I'm trying to adjust to all these other things. Long story short, man, I just was like living this anger. I was doing a lot of things in the street. I was trying to, I was going against everything my father was trying to do for me and to bring to me. So, my dad relied on the best thing he knew possible, which was the Marine Corps. So what he did was he started, like the corporal punishment. We all, it was a long time before my father even hugged me, right? So I was like really just used to that abrasive ass nature. And so, my dad would do shit like, like when the smacks didn't work, he would be a little more aggressive. So, I remember one time he brought, I had fucked up really bad. So he brought this truckload of gravel and just dumped it in the yard. And so he put a square shovel and a wheelbarrow in front of me and said, you move this pile of rocks from this side of the yard to the other side of the yard. And that's what I did for a whole summer, right? Just that. I would have to get up at 5 a.m. and work till the sun went down, and then I would eat, go to sleep, be up at 5 again. So I did this whole thing, and I spent my whole summer like that. And so at the end, when I had moved the pile, he then had a truck come pick it up and take it away. He didn't even use the shit. You know what I'm saying? It was, it was like that was the kind of things that he was trying to do to get through to me. So that ended up like really like giving me a moral compass and giving me a backbone that a lot of my friends didn't have, but it still didn't stop me from getting in trouble. So one night I went out, I snuck out. Well, to give you some context, my parents were Jehovah's Witnesses. And they, no birthdays, no holidays, no none of that shit. I wanted that shit so bad. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to feel normal. So I ended up going, sneaking out to a Halloween party. I was never invited to any parties. I got invited to this Halloween party. I wanted to go. So I went out there and I got, I was in the party first time. Yeah. Somebody handed me a beer. I was like, fuck yeah, so just drink the beer, right? And the first beer, awesome. So then I tried to sneak back into the house. So my window was closed, right? My sister had snitched on me, right? Because she couldn't go. So I ended up, like getting in trouble. So, my step family, my stepmom, my dad were very angry. They hit me with an ironing cord and put webs and stuff all over me. So I ended up, running away. Went to my friend's house to the party I just left. I spent the night there, didn't know what to do. Went to school the next day. My first period teacher was like, what the hell is wrong with you? What happened? And I was like, listen, I snuck out. I wasn't supposed to. My parents were, this is how I'm disciplined. They was like, listen, no matter what that was, you don't deserve this, right? Bad, huh? So it didn't register because I was so used to being treated that way, right? And so they called social services. Long story short, that's how I got into the system, right? So when they went to court, my parents were very angry that this all had happened, so they gave up custody of me to the state. Wow. They denied custody of taking me home.
How old were you at this point?
I was I'd say about 13, 14. So from then, I was kind of like on my own. And so I had to do a little group home stuff and got through my little probation or whatever. And that's when I really started like writing. You know, I started writing my own music. I started writing my thoughts down in journals. And that's kind of how I like kept myself, because, you know, remember I came from education.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was doing a lot of things that were self-soothing and like things that I had relied on and things that made me feel normal. And being able to process my thoughts and be able to write these things down along with music was kind of like where I was.
What was your mother passes, your father remarries quickly, you're angry. What was the source of it? Was this always the way? Was it always corporal punishment? You were beat from a young kid?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that what it was? Or
Absolutely.
was it that your father abandoned your mother, it seemed like?
No, it wasn't an abandonment thing. I think my father freaked out. He was with 2 kids. I got a sister, very young, you know, we were just 2 years apart. And he didn't know what to do. I think, you know, as conversations as with my father later on, he said he got married right away because he didn't know what to do. And he felt like having somebody in that position was the best thing he could do for me and my sister, which turned out to be the total wrong thing to do at the time, you know what I'm saying? So that's where, you know, I was angry about a lot of things, but one thing I did is I turned that anger into accomplishment. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people come from my community and get consumed with anger and let it consume them to the point where it turns into self-destruction. I turned that anger into something that was different. I found Xzibit. I found hip hop music. So now I can get in front of a microphone and I can kick and scream and curse and do all this stuff and not hurt anyone, including myself.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So it was like a win-win, because, you know, the persona, if you listen to my music, is very abrasive.
Yeah.
I say a lot of, you know, like sharp things. I say a lot of things that, you know, may not sit well with you at the moment, but that's how I felt. I'm not sitting well. So here's how I feel. And that's the kind of reason that I took all of these things, that this turbulent childhood, and found a way to use it to make a negative into a positive. And that was how I actually came into, you know, finding the music, and hip hop saved my life.
Is that central? It's funny, I think of like John Mayer is just John Mayer, right?
Right.
But in rap, it's Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Xzibit, right? You have an alter ego.
Correct.
Is that because of the heaviness of the lyric and where people come from in the hip hop culture? Like, is that why you have this alter ego, this other name, typically?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people listen to my music and then they meet me and be like, "Oh my God," you know what I'm saying? Like, "Oh my God."
It's true.
It's like, you know, I'm not threatened. You know what I'm saying? But it's fun because it's like, if you don't understand the culture, then it's easy to have prejudice or misconceptions or preconceived notion of who I am.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to judge from across the room, but until we take 5 minutes and talk to each other, you know, there's a lot of similarities in the way that I and you and the people in this room have come from different backgrounds, but we all are trying to do the same thing. We want to take care of our families. We want to have success. We want to have generational wealth. We want to be able to get to a point of comfortability and be respected by our peers.
Yeah.
You know, same things. We just going through a different way. I didn't go to college. I didn't do any of those things, but I learned business by doing business and reading contracts and learning how things work in the business world. You know, I went the long way around. You know, a lot of these things I didn't understand when I was getting into them. But, you know, I went to the school of fucking hard knocks. Yeah. You know, you got to get in and you got to get in somewhere. So I was willing to, you know, take a loss in some aspects. But at the same time, you know, I'm in the game. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. How did you get the name Xzibit? I'm curious about that. I couldn't find it anywhere I looked. Where did that name come from?
When I was young, I don't know if you guys understand, you know, like the evolution of rap music. You know, it was like MC this, MC that, MC, you know, all these MCs back in the day, MC Hammer, you know what I'm saying? Young MC, all these people had the word MC on there. So it was a point of, I didn't want to, you know, copy that. I wanted to be different. So I went to the opposite end of the spectrum. And one day I was at school and I was like saying one of my raps, and they was like Exhibit A on display. And they was like, hey, you know, there it is. You know what I'm saying? So I started calling myself Exhibit A. Eventually, Ebonics kicked in. I don't know if you guys know what Ebonics are or whatever. I dropped the A, put the X and the Z, and then it became Xzibit.
Yeah.
So, that's how I started writing, as a stage name.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, does anybody remember this guy prior to Pimp My Ride? Do you guys remember the music, the albums, right? Some of us do. Many of us do. If you can't listen in the late 90s, early 2000s to a Dre album, a Snoop album, an Eminem album, of course your own, without you being on multiple tracks, right? How'd you fall into that crew? I mean, that's like today's version of hip hop is all rooted in that in West Coast
I
rap.
come from the same thing. I came from the same thing. I grew up a fan of these people before I got to work with them.
Yeah.
So it's funny because my first record that I ever put out, I got signed the first year my son was born, because I had my first son when I was 20 years old. And I was so fucking scared because I didn't have income. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything except this, I was coming from Albuquerque.
This point you're in LA, right?
Right, I had moved to LA.
Yeah.
I went there at 17 years old with a black and purple Geo tracker, $3,000, and some cross-color clothes, right? And so when I got to LA, this is all I had. A friend of mine said he lived by himself. And when I got to LA, I called him because this is way before pagers or cell phones. I was at the beach and I went there because I was waiting for him to call me back. So he didn't call me back till the next day. So I was just like waiting for this phone call. When I got the phone call, I was like, hey, I'm in LA. He was like, listen, man, I live with my parents. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't come here. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, cool. So I ended up, going and seeing his family. I had nowhere else to go, and I wasn't going to go back to Albuquerque. So I was like, listen, here's what I have. Allow me to kind of stay with you, and let me figure out, what my next step is going to be. And it just started from there. I was couch surfing for a minute, but I just refused to go backwards. I always tell people, I never had a plan B. Plan A is going to work. It may take some work. I may take a little time, but plan A is going to work. And so when I got to finally, recording and meeting, I met up with a group called the Alcoholics, King T. These are the first people I knew with real record deals. So once I started kind of associating with them, I was carrying crates. I was waiting for my opportunity. And then I started the battle rap circuit, started doing all these other things that kind of way before the record deal happened. Once I got my first, my first record deal, you guys are gonna love this shit. When I got my first record deal, I was signed to a production company. The guy that was making the beats in the studio, there was an interest in me now, right? Because I had done all this legwork in the underground. And he signed me to a production company called Jack Move Productions. Jack Move Productions should have told me right there it was some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So literally, I mean, I get this offer. The offer is for $150,000 to record my first album, right? It's that number at the time seemed astronomical, right? So as an advance, they give you 10% of that, right? My son was was about to be born. All this happened at the same time, and so literally. The guys brought my advance and had me meet them at Barney's Beanery on Santa Monica Boulevard, and literally handed me $15,000 under the table. It was to me, it felt like $1 million. Sure. Because it was all this stuff I had been working for. It had just come to fruition. Now, hindsight, it was the worst thing that could have possibly happened. But I was able to that was my tuition into the game. Why was it the worst thing that could have ever happened? Because it was a horrible record deal. You know what I'm saying? It was like a horrible deal. But that was my tuition into the game, sure. Right? Yeah. And so I took this money home, and my girlfriend was really happy, and it was like, oh my God, it was like a breath of fresh air. My first single came out and went gold immediately, boom. And so this was I'm on my way. This is Paparazzi. Right, Paparazzi. Yeah. But it was different because it didn't go gold in America. My first single was sampled from a Barbra Streisand opera song. And it turned out that this was the biggest song next to the German national anthem that was going on in Germany. It was like the shit in Germany, right? So I get this opportunity, yo, you're gold in Germany. So my first touring experiences were overseas. Once I got overseas, I was bigger overseas than I got to be here. So that was kind of like how I came into the game. Now, how I got with Dr. Dre was like during my third album. I was making a name for myself. I was holding my own. There wasn't, I was signed to an East Coast label with a West Coast artist. I was figuring out how to make these things work, and I had a presence in hip hop. That was the first step. Dr. Dre is arguably the mastermind and one of the biggest like creators and producers in music, not just hip hop, in music. So to get his attention, I got a phone call from him one day. And it was like getting a call from, man, what the fuck? Yeah, Dr. Dre wants to talk to me. So then he was like, listen, I got a song. Snoop Dogg wants you to do a single with him. Well, not a single, he just wants you to do a song. That turned into a single, right? Once we did that single, he invited me to get, and see, this is an opportunity for like people that nobody likes desperate people, right? You shy away from people that work out of desperation, right? And so I was never that guy. I was signed to a label. I was already had a name for myself. And so I ended up going over to do this song with Dre. I walked in the studio. He played the beat. I was done with my verse in 15 minutes.
No kidding.
I said the verse and into the microphone and got it all recorded. Once it was done, I thanked him for the opportunity, and I left. I didn't talk about payment. I didn't talk about what's up? Can you do something for me? Can you do something for my album? It was none of that. It was thank you for the opportunity, and I left. He was impressed by that because everyone who comes around him asks him for something, right? Yeah. So then I was like, okay, cool. Look, I know this. If it's gonna happen from here, I want it to be on the merit of my talent and my work ethic, right? So immediately, it started. It took off. It did really well. He ended up asking me to be on his album, which is the 2001 album, right? And then after that came out, that became a success. It was a song I did with Eminem and Dr. Dre, right? It came out as a single as well. So then after that, I got invited to go on tour. That was the moment my life changed. Wow. Right? On the Up in Smoke tour.
What are you making in hip hop these years? Is this 7 figures per year, more?
No, I told you it was a horrible contract. Yeah. I already told you it was whack. So yet all these things are happening, but yet still, look, it's called the music business for a reason. Yeah. I was into the music part. I didn't understand the business. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a GoBundance. I didn't have people. I didn't have a Jerry. I didn't have people around me. I just had people that wanted to good time and party because I was popular. Sure. Right? So I didn't really give a shit about the business. I was like, they're gonna take care of it. Big fucking mistake. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But, there was a saving grace, right? The saving grace was I was able to turn that whole experience and become bigger than life and renegotiate as I went into other deals, right? Yeah. And so my first 3 albums, my first 2 albums I don't own, so I didn't own. But when I got to my 3rd album, I was able to renegotiate. And so now everything from my 3rd album to this day, I own 100% of. Nice. Right? And so that was good because I started understanding what was happening because I was getting my royalty checks and they'd be like, what happened? Right. I thought I'm doing the math. I'm like, a CD costs $16.99. And now, okay. And then they like, wow, I'm only getting like 5 cents. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wait a minute. So it became something that I really got in tune with and understood. And so, that's what kind of like guided me towards, okay, you got to pay attention to what's going on. Mm. Sometimes it's good to be popular. It's good to be in these circumstances, but you got to pay attention to what's happening because at the end of the day, everybody's going home and they have jobs, but this is your life. Mm-hmm. So pay attention.
I love it, man. I love the perspective, by the way. The mindset around that. Yeah. In the real estate world, we talk about this in terms of, your first or second deal you lose money on. That's just tuition, right?
Absolutely.
That's kind of how you looked at it. Right? It's tuition, and it was your college fee, if you will. Yeah. I want to move on to Pimp My Ride, but one thing that jumped out, you mentioned Paparazzi, your first hit. Mm-hmm. That was Tupac took exception to that song.
Yes.
Really, right? So for those that don't know, Tupac wrote a song called How Do You Want It, which is one of my favorite songs when I was younger. Anybody remember that song? How Do You Want It? Tupac? John, man, I didn't know you're such a rap fan, dude. I mean, you look like it. Yeah, you got that rap look.
He was that kid at the front of the concert.
Yeah, Atlanta's Most Wanted over there. But he wrote this song, and in the song he talks about like all I want is money, the hell with the fame, and then you had a lyric that kind of played on that, and he assumed that was you talking to him. He was huge at that point. Was that a boost for you? Are these beefs in rap? Is that what they are? Is it a marketing ploy, or was that
no?
real?
It's not marketing. It could get pretty dangerous.
So talk through that a little bit. What happened there? What happened?
Yeah, especially with Tupac. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, no, but it got, that was a big deal, because he name checked me on the record.
Yeah.
But actually, it wasn't him who did it. It was a guy named Idi Amin, who was part of the Outlaws in this group. And recently, I just did a song with Idi Amin, and it was a long time coming. But we had a discussion about that. He said Tupac was a big fan of mine, and it was just like, at the time, there was so many people coming at him from different angles that he just thought I was joining with that momentum. But, really, Paparazzi, if you listen to it, it's about my love for music, my love, what I'm bringing to what I think hip hop is about. And so it's not about money, it's not about fame, it's about a feeling. It's about what do you bring to the table? What do you bring to the culture? And that was the whole meaning of the song. So when it wasn't a boost, it was kind of like it was a test of a test of cultures, like is it the David or is it the Goliath?
Yeah.
Is it the people that still know the 5 elements of hip hop, or is it the corporate $1 million video side of hip hop things that we're paying attention to? And that was kind of like the tug of war that was happening at the time.
Interesting. All right, let's advance up to Pimp My Ride. Now you've become Soccer Mom famous, right?
Yes.
Like so you've got everyone in the country knows you at this point. How does that opportunity come along? How does hardcore rapper Xzibit become the guy on my MTV show every Sunday or whatever day it was?
Right. It was pretty incredible that when Pimp My Ride came along, because at the time, being on reality television was frowned upon. It was like now, you got people doing like, cereal commercials with hip hop, and you see Cardi B selling Dixie cups, and all these other things that are happening. But I mean, at the time, nobody from my genre was doing reality television. So when we did Pimp My Ride, it was literally a guy named Rick Hurwitz. He was actually at the shop of West Coast Customs one day. I was just in there, telling horrible dad jokes. And everybody was just, just having fun. And in the office, they was like, hey, would you think about, hosting a show? I was like, no. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm Xzibit. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so he was like, no, I think you'd be good. So I was like, oh, let's do a little test run. At least do the test run. So we literally did our first the first like little snippet we did was like we went to one of his friends' houses. We went to his backyard. Somebody drove up. I literally just put a hubcap and an air freshener in the car, and I was like, "There you go," you know what I'm saying? And then he was like, "Oh, thanks, man." Drove off, and then MTV bought 13 episodes, right? From that, and then from there it was like they put us on at like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, right? The show literally blew up and became one of the mainstays of the network at the time. And then it became a global thing. And then it became like, oh my God, this thing is super huge. West Coast Customs went from a garage about the size of one of these tables into a $10 million facility, like in a 3-year period. Yeah. Like we were literally in everybody's household. And then the replays of it, what I'm saying, just happened everywhere around the world. I would go to Russia and I would see, myself on TV speaking fluent Russian. You know what I'm saying? Like fluent. I would go to Germany and Xzibit. You know what I'm saying? So this thing became like now it was very disarming. Yeah. So if people didn't know anything about my music, all of a sudden they started knowing my personality through the TV show. And nothing I did on that show was scripted. All that stuff was off the cuff, right? And so it was really dope for people to see how I talk to my family and friends. You know, like that's Thanksgiving talk, the way that we having conversations, right? And so then it became like interesting to me to be like, oh man, there's something beyond rap that I can do, right? I don't have to stay in this box. You know, I can go out and be a trailblazer. And I don't mind being first. You know, I take that as a challenge. You know, and that's what led me to doing films and all these other things.
Did you take any crap from anybody in the rap about being like
Oh,
not
absolutely.
pure? Was the main guys, like the businessmen, the Dr. Dre's, or was it more?
No, the business guys got it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They was like, oh shit, he's on everybody's TV.
Yeah.
We love it.
Right.
But my peers were like, man, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Like, bro, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Like we got to get back to the violent shit. I was like, no, this is an opportunity to go forward. But I understood it. My team didn't understand it until it became like, oh my God, he's like transcending past hip hop.
Yeah, were you paid just as talent, or did you get a like $10 million operation? Did you get a part of that?
No.
Could you have?
No. It was very clear from the beginning that ownership was not on the table.
Got it.
I came in, my first season of Pimp My Ride was $5,000 an episode.
Wow.
And I was like, it wasn't Pimp My Ride yet. It was just like something that MTV was trying.
Right.
Then it blew up, and then I was like, guys, like this shit ain't cool. You know what I'm saying? Right. So every year they would just increase it like by a lot more. And then, you know, at the end of the seasons, I was getting like $75,000 an episode, which still is a drop in the bucket because the first season of Pimp My Ride, they made $400 million in advertising.
Wow. No kidding. And you got what, 60 grand?
Yeah, basically, something like that.
Interesting.
So it was again, this was like this is the way the music business it was working at the time, right? So, but again, it's like, you know, you had a crossroad at that point. Like, yes, the money will piss you off, but the audience doesn't know that. You know what you look like when you go to the audience and say, oh man, they're fucking me, they're they don't give a shit about who you're talking about. They're looking at you. Yeah. Like, you dumbass, why did you fall for that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's a reflection of what it is. So now it's up to you to kind of, okay, cool. So let me figure out how to turn this negative into a positive. Right? Yeah. Because if you stuck in that cycle, then you'll be in your head and you'll end up, you know, just really pissed off all the time. And I don't have time for that. Yeah. I'm looking for solutions. I'm not looking for blame. I'm not looking for problems. I'm looking for solutions. Right? And so when my contract was up, I just didn't renew it. That was it. They juiced it. They squeezed it as much as possible. And then when it was time, the show was not canceled. They wanted to keep going. I just like, my contract is up. I no longer owe you this obligation, you know? And, you know, if ownership is not on the table, then I'm gonna take my ball and go play in Miami like LeBron said. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Show ends.
Yeah.
This is what, 2010, 11, somewhere in that range? Is that something about right?
Yeah.
You get a pretty decent sized bill at a certain point within a year or so after that.
Oh yeah, because check this out. So now, you know, as I'm doing this show, now I'm not allowed to go out and do my other things. I can't go tour. I can't record albums, which was my main source of income at the time. And so I didn't have, you know, good advisors around me. I didn't have a good business manager. I built up a $2 million tax debt, you know, and it was really kicking my ass because, you know, as popular as I was hiding the fact that I was in financial distress. I was hiding it. I wasn't sharing it with people, you know, that could have helped me, right? Because nobody was willing to help at the time. But I was super uber popular. Go outside, like, ah! But when I went home and checked my bank account, it didn't scream like that. You know what I'm saying? It was more like,
So this is a point at which you find your way into the cannabis industry, correct?
No, I mean, actually, you know, I had to take, I'm going to be totally honest. What I love about this is that you guys are uber smart. You guys are uber successful. And so now, but the vulnerability that I hear from some of you guys when you come up here and talk is very inspiring. So, I've heard about alcoholism, I've heard about, abuse, I've heard about, people, taking advantage of people, hitting rock bottom and coming back up. I did the same thing. I sat on a couch for about 5 years.
Oh, wow.
I sat on a couch just drinking top of the morning to the end of the day or till I passed out, waking back up, doing it all over again, feeling sorry for myself, being mad at people. These people are going on with their lives. They don't even know where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? But I'm sitting on this couch like, you know what I'm saying? It did me no good.
Yeah. Nothing
happened. So I got my son, my family. They didn't quite get it because I was in my head. And so one day I was just like, you know what? I got my peers making fun of me. I got, the publications rejoicing in, my downfall. They think it's done. They think it's over. And a lot of my friends had taken off, telling me what they think, what I should have did and all this other stuff. And, they took off. So I was sat there by myself for 5 years. I sat there. And one day I put the shit down and I said, I have to change this. Nobody can do this but me. Yeah. Me being mad at them is not affecting their bottom line, right? So I just put one foot in front of the other. I just started by going and just doing something that I love, which was music. I went to the studio, started making some music, started getting my pace back, found some clarity. They actually did me a favor. When everybody cleared the house, that's what I needed. I needed to get my space back to make myself whole again, right? And then I started making, better decisions because I'm not thinking for a group anymore. I'm thinking for myself. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah. And so that's how I got into, I got to stop relying on music and entertainment to pay my bills. I want to do music because I love to do music, not because I have to. So let me find another way to create different revenue streams. Yeah. And that's how I got into cannabis. Yeah. Right?
So talk about Napalm. Did you start right with Napalm?
No.
You started the company or how did you kind of get into it? What was the beginnings of that?
My first company was a vape company called Brass Knuckles. Okay. Right? Brass Knuckles arguably was the biggest vape company in the world at one point, because it was before the traditional market. We had just came out of nowhere. I had a guy that came from small retail format. He was buying milk and ice cream programs for Circle K. And then there was a guy that just had a lot of influencers and people that understood, where the best cannabis was. California was the hub of the best cannabis at the moment, right? So we came out of nowhere. We started with 6,000 carts. We took that 6,000 carts and then we were selling, by the time we got done, we were selling 150,000 carts a week at $30 a piece. Wow. And so that really added up really quickly, right? Yeah. So, so our last year together, we hit like $60 million, right? And so, there's a lot that goes into that. And of course, we didn't have the corporate structure. It was just like, guys, we're fucking, I'm pretty sure we did things incorrectly. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, considering, what's in this room. But for us, that was it. Yeah. That was it. I was able to do things that I had never done in my life, right? And so, the first thing I did was I paid my taxes.
How did you pay your taxes?
Yeah.
How'd you pay them?
I paid my tax. This is funny. This is a funny story. I went to the IRS and a franchise tax board with cash. There's only one there.
We got it up there?
Oh yeah. Those are that thing over there. That was my franchise tax board payment. And then those checks right there. If you look at them and zoom in on them, it'll show you the price amounts that I had to pay per year that I was delinquent. So I had to pay the penalties. I had to pay everything down. And I paid almost $2.3 million in cash to pay my taxes off. In cash. Now you guys will be like, why did you do that? Just get on a payment plan, bro, and then you'll be good. But that had been said. There's certain things that you do that make you sleep better at night. And then there's certain like investments that you do. That I needed to do that just to shut the things off in my head that I had let affect me for so long, right? So I was able to pay these things off, and I bought myself a beautiful house. I took care of my family. I was able to do all these wonderful things. But like all good things, they come to an end. You know what I'm saying? So my partners that were with me became really, these guys, like I told you, they weren't millionaires when we started this thing, but they walking around with security guards now, and everybody's driving Ferraris, and what I'm saying? It's like we did the total opposite thing that you're supposed to do. Yeah, we just good time, fuck yeah. And so from there it was just like, okay, cool, what are you guys doing? It became greed. Greed took over from the whole thing, and then he still was bootlegging the things, selling them across the nation. It was just becomes, we got hit pretty hard. So, me being the biggest name in the group, I decided to be like, look, guys, there you go. I'm out. It was easy to walk away from because I'm the one that created and built the brand name, right? And just like Pimp My Ride, it was riding on my back because, people trust me. People trust what I'm doing because I've been so, I've been an open book from the beginning, right? And so, I just started my own brand, Napalm, which is based off one of my albums that I did in 2012, the word Napalm. And so I was like, damn, that sounds like a good, that sounds like a great name for a cannabis brand. One thing I understand is marketing, right? I've been marketing myself since I was a teenager. So I know how to boil down a message, a mission statement, boil it down into 1 or 2 words, jam that shit into something that makes sense and relates to the people I've been talking to for 30 years, right? So this is what I do. I'm good at that. Now I'll go move some pallets. I'll drive the fucking truck. You want me to drive a forklift? I'll drive the fucking forklift. You know what I'm saying? But that's not what I'm best at. That's not what my best suit is, right? So now I've been able to, learn all these things, incorporate everything I've learned from entertainment and from my first cannabis experience and do this thing called Napalm.
Amazing. Yeah. The partners on vape, where is that today? Where are they today?
Well, the thing is, it's been through a whole mess of things. People still, talk about brass knuckles, right?
That's right. I'm sorry.
Right. People still talk about brass knuckles. Now, they still feel like there's value in it, but, to me, it's just a competing brand to something I just started now. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to be the end of brass knuckles, but for right now, it's just tucked away in the shelf.
Napalm caught some flack recently, last few years, from particularly the Asian American community came after you for the name, a lot of connotation with Vietnam, how napalm was used and all of that. You clapped back, and you did it in such a way that I thought was really interesting. You can go to his Instagram and see this, but it's essentially him saying, hey, listen, I am really sorry to all of you that I've offended with the name Napalm. I am here to learn, so please reach out to me. I want to learn more so I can understand how this is offensive, and the name isn't changing, essentially is what...
Yeah, basically. I did it because you can't say, hey guys, fuck you, this is bullshit, I'm not changing it. You know what I'm saying? Because if they use your words, it's like a straitjacket. So you got to, this is the way I did it. I'm not a political guy, I'm not a religious guy. But one thing I do have is integrity, and I'm not bigoted towards anyone. I just don't carry myself that way. I was being called a racist. I was being called, like all these other things that after all these years, it's like, you guys know me, this is not me. Now, the funny thing is, it's like, when I put the album out, Napalm, in 2012, nobody seemed to have issue with it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's because people, in my industry saw that I was coming out again and I was making money. I was continuing on when they tried to stop me. They tried to knock my legs out from under me. Yeah. I was continuing on, and I was proving the fact that, the buck stops with me. I'm where the rubber meets the road when it comes to this cannabis shit. And so then it was like, okay, you have to use your platform to try to come after me. If I start arguing with you on my platform, you're gonna now have the same volume that I have. So I'm not gonna give you the opportunity to say that, good luck, I'll see you on the battlefield. Because I'm gonna go and all I gotta do is just speak my truth to my fans and they're gonna look at you like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what happened. Turns out one of the people that was leading the charge and trying to do the stuff behind the scenes was one of my disgruntled employees. And they're not even Asian. You know what I'm saying? It was like, bro, like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? So that panned out good, man. We don't deal with the woke shit. We don't deal with none of that. This is about business, and this is about, you know, what we're getting across, you know, to the people that want to be involved in our businesses and the people that want to be, you know, a part of our journey. And that's how we did it.
I like this. Xzibit takes down wokeness. That's the headline in TMZ. Napalm now, and maybe for the next 3 to 5 years. What are you doing? What's the future? What does it look like? What's the company look like?
We started April 2020, which was like pre-pandemic, you know.
Right at it. Yeah.
Right, and timing is everything. Like the bearded one said earlier, you know what I'm saying? You know, timing is everything. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you want, you know, it's like you said, you want to be lucky than good. You know what I'm saying? And at the time, I made $150 joint. Now, the people that don't consume cannabis, this is like unheard of. The pre-roll is like the non-sexiest thing in cannabis, right? It's like people put their shittiest weed in it, sell it for the cheap. It's like the end cap, right? And the last $20 somebody wants to throw away and they'll get a pre-roll.
Sure.
So we ended up making a glass jar that had, you know, looked like a pineapple, but then it turned out to be, hey, let's put a cap on this and now it's a grenade, right? And so I made an 8-gram pre-roll with 1 gram of live resin and ended up turning that into $150 joint, right? So we sold it wholesale for $50. They mark it up 2 times inside the dispensary. So they were going out the door for $150 during the pandemic. People getting free money. People sitting at home. They can't go anywhere. Fuck yeah, I'll get a $150 joint. You know what I'm saying? You know? We ended up selling a shit ton of these things, right? So Napalm literally shot out of the gate during the pandemic, right? So, you know, my plan for, you know, it was a blessing to have that kind of market penetration so early on, right? So it just, we knew we were doing something right. Now we've expanded the menu, you know, we're moving and shaking, you know, but we don't grow. You know, we don't cultivate. I never want to touch a plant. I'd stay good at what you're good at, right? So I look at a house plant and it dies. You know, so I know I'm not going to be good at being a cultivator, right? Yeah. So with Napalm, this has like been something that, you know, now I'm in control. I'm in the driver's seat, you know, and now I need help, right? So along comes Jerry Kleiman, you know what I'm saying? And his team, he came with Aspire. Aspire is our manufacturer for our hardware and our packaging, right? Huge company already, you know, they came over from the e-cigarette world and started like, we're gonna come over and take over cannabis. And hands down, the best, you know, relationship that I've ever come across. No bullshit. Very accountable, means what he says what he means. What's not to love about him? And Jerry is intense. He can get to, when he gets to cursing, it's awesome. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Jerry told us, he's like, what can I say, guys? I love 2 things, fucking and saying
same
fucking.
thing, yeah.
So that was his thing. I love you, Jerry. I love you. Thanks for letting us share.
So they came in, saw the operation we were doing, and was impressed with what we were doing, believed in what we were doing. Invested in the company, right? And it was like, you know, that was the first time someone outside of a record company has invested in me. And I'll take the time and say, thank you very much for believing in me, bro. Like that was big for me, you know, and a lot of people don't take the time and think it's them. But success is you know, is hard to attain, but with people like you know, that trust me, because trust is gained in drops but lost in buckets. You know, and I appreciate everything that your company has done and the way that you saw me and you came in and brought your team in, and it's been smooth sailing, you know? So we've been really, really blessed to have like people to come in now And it just feels like all these things that I've been through, all these horrible deals that I had to be a part of. Now I'm in the driver's seat and I understand exactly how to handle every situation going. All my T's are crossed, all my I's are dotted. It feels better to be in this position now.
Man, amazing, amazing. Let's wrap up recently. I want to talk about marriage a little bit with you. We were talking at lunch a bit about this. Matt, how am I doing? About 5 minutes? Or? Yeah. All right, cool. You recently got divorced, or you're getting divorced right now. Right now. Tell me a little bit about that, because I thought you shared this story at lunch, and I thought it was really compelling about how you look back at your marriage, which was an amazing story to begin with. I mean, sad but amazing. And how that informed, like what you saw from that point that led you to the decision now to end your marriage. So do you want to just talk about your wedding all the way through now?
I always said I'm never getting married. You know what I'm saying? I always said that because my parents, like my childhood, my parents used to scream and argue and scream at the top of their lungs, and like it was just like I just not good at that. My dad failed in 2 marriages. It's not for me, right? After I got out of that 5-year stint, my girl at the time, my ex-wife at the time. She stuck with me through that. Can't take that away from her. She stuck with me through that period and didn't browbeat me, didn't tell me I was a piece of shit, didn't tell me to get up and do something, didn't do any of that. She just stood by and said, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna get better. At that point, that's what I needed, right? But marriage is more than that, right? And so once I got back on my feet, and I was like, oh man, life is great. Brass knuckles is cracking. I'm doing this. Now I'm doing tours again. I'm like, I feel great. Let's get married. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so we did, right? But as things progressed, but let me tell you this. So here's the big red flag. On my wedding night, I got arrested. Let me tell you how this happened. So we got married in Orange County, St. Regis, right? And we were staying at this resort that was like literally like 4 or 5 minutes away from there. We get to the resort after the wedding reception, and she's like, "Oh shit, the box of gifts and envelopes and all this stuff I left it out in the lobby or whatever. You have to go get it." I was like, well, fuck it, okay. You know what I'm saying? So I went to go get it. On the way back, I blew past the light. I was trying to get back to her, right? And so got stopped. And I had changed my clothes, everything. I was just like kind of relaxed. I was on my way back. And he was like, I was like, I just got married, I'm, on my way back, the cop was like, when I knew I was fucked when he said, okay, well, where's your tuxedo? I was like, oh shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, I changed my clothes, and then it sounded like I was making shit up. You know what I'm saying? And so then he called somebody that the car came and they hooked me up, took me to jail. A lot of staff sergeant who was on at that time came in and was like, what the fuck are you doing? This guy just got married. He's like, oh shit, we didn't know. We thought he was lying. You know what I'm saying? And so the next day I was just like, guys, please, let's try to keep this. I tried to call my lawyers and try to get it squashed because, they're gonna have a field day with this. This is gonna be really bad, right? And so when I got to the house, here's the red flag. She was asleep. And I was like, she was like, where were you? I thought would you go drinking with the friends? I was like, why would I go drinking on my fucking wedding night? You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, I got arrested. And she was like, oh, stop playing. She thought I was joking. And the real red flag is she didn't call. She didn't call and see where I was. It wasn't a concern to her. And I realized later on that the material things and the things that was really important to her didn't sit with me. It sat in what we were able to bring, right? Yeah. And so not saying that she didn't love me, but like we had a child together, it just became like we were roommates. She didn't care where I was coming in. She didn't care if I was coming home. I want to feel loved, just like she wants to feel loved. I want to feel protected like she feels protected. that concern, that caring, that following up. That's what we need. We don't need to be coddled and babied and all this stuff, but having a partner is a different feeling than having a roommate. I feel like we are roommates, right? And so that's what made me get to the decision. I spent 3 years in Chicago. I was on a TV show called Empire, right? She came to see me one time. Now that's, to some people that's not a big deal. I mean, we're busy. We got a kid in school. We got this. But one thing I learned at GoBundance was that when you guys schedule your date nights, you guys schedule the time with your families, the things that are important. Now, I was blown away by 3 things, like the point of, just do the 3 things that move the needle and then delegate the other tasks to other people. Like I had a housekeeper and all this stuff, but folks like really wrapping my head around that and really like taking time out, because I used to be in really good shape. But now the excuse that I use is like, listen, I just need to get up and grind through the day, and I get up early, I'll go to bed late, I'm a monster. But how productive are you being, right? And so now it's like I have a different perspective on that. And even at lunch, like these are things that I'm learning and taking away from the short time that I've been here as a guest, and really like putting perspective into the things that I know that I don't do well, right? And the things that I do well can be even sharper, right? And so that's how we get to, the divorce, right? And so now I don't feel like it was the wrong decision, because marriage is great. It's another step towards, being mature and accountability and caring for people other than yourselves, and taking care of your children and having that structure. But if it's not healthy, then you got to move on, and you got to do the right thing, because our parents did that. They stayed in horrible marriages, and then they beat the shit out of each other and did all these weird things to each other. And so I don't want that. I just think being totally honest and open with what's going on in your relationship, and if it's fixable, fix it. But if it's not, you have to do what's healthy. Right? Not what's right, because you have to do what's healthy.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Man, I appreciate you opening up this much.
Yeah. No.